I'm going to invite everybody now to actually join the chat, and I'm going to start actually with Tasneem. The question to Tasneem is, and also from one of the audiences, Tasneem, there must be a starting point or a reason why you wanted to do this. What was it that you were hoping to achieve when you started this project?
Thank you for the question. As I mentioned before in my speech, that we were not planning anything like this. We just want to make a documentary, make a good documentary, and we didn't think about anything like we'll make on the violence, hate, fear, and crime. But at that time, the Northeast Delhi riots and the lynchings were on its peak. So when we were writing our documentary ideas, we were just roam around and come back to the point that we should do something on about North Delhi riots and the hatred is spread all over the country against Muslims. So we decided to make a documentary about the people who were lynched, like Pehlu Khan, Junaid, and Akhlaq. But it was not possible for us in that short period of time. Then we narrow it down to Junaid and try to convey our message only through the Junaid's perspective and Northeast Delhi riots victim.
Okay. Thank you, Tasneem. It is very sad that we live in a world where not only has a crime happened, but a series of crime has happened, and we are having to make the hard choice of which story to say, and it being driven by what is it that we can do at this moment. So well done to you and to the entire team for doing this. I'm going to ask Mufti Saab, who has raised his hand. Is it a question, sir, or is it something that you'd like to share with us?
It's an extension to the response that our sister made there. If I may, very quickly, it is very important because this day and age is modern social media is very important. And for Muslims, one thing that comes to mind was at the time of Musa alayhi salam, magic was very important to them. So Moses was given the miracle of his stick. He used to do miracles. Jesus at his time, the medicine was quite prevalent at that time. So Jesus was given the miracles of healing people. Qur'an, when it came, at that time, the prevalent thing was poetry. So Qur'an was really in a very important poetic form, or we could talk about it. So nowadays, in 21st century global place, media is so important. So Sister Tasneem, I really congratulate you that media is the platform to use for these kind of things. I'll give back to you, Naeem.
Can I be one obtrusive element in the, actually...
not obtrusive, participative element.
Yeah, Mufti Saab said one thing, Gandhi said that he want Ram Rajya. But you know how he defined his Ram Rajya? He said his Ram Rajya should be Omar's rule. Now you can go research, but I'm sure, Gandhiji said, he wants Ram Rajya, but that should be Omar's. So it has to, Gandhi's Ram Rajya and Gandhi's Hindutva and the way he organized, Indian nationalism, it was inclusive. That is why, they killed Gandhi. And and they were not even courageous enough to accept the fact that they killed Gandhi. So RSS goes on telling it's Hindu Mahasabha and all that.
No, you make a very interesting point, and I'm going to actually direct the question to Sunitaji. There is a huge issue of apathy. How do we, and which is a very worrying thing. So how do we manage apathy then?
So so maybe this will address both what you both said, but the way Gopalji just was talking, I mean, it's true that even if you were purely strategic, I think that the path that we are on would make sense, at least to some people, just purely strategically. But I just want to put it on the record that this is a heart's journey. This is the real deal. We are truly Hindus who care about human rights. We're truly inclusive Hindus. This is a spiritual path as well as a human path towards justice. There's no difference between those two things. And in fact, recently I was speaking to somebody, I won't say the person's name. It's a prominent politician from India who shares my values, isn't even Hindu, and advice was given to me, very loving, affectionate advice. Brilliant, what you're doing is correct. This is exactly what we need in India. But your strategy should be bring everyone onto your platform who's undecided. Any Hindu who's undecided, any Hindu that's voting for BJP that you can bring to your side, you must bring to your side. That should be your strategy. So stop talking about Muslims. Don't say the word Islamophobia. Muslims will be with you anyway because you're standing against Hindutva. Don't worry about that. Just press the Hindu point and don't talk about Muslims. And you will that way actually bring the polarization, lessen the polarization and hurt the BJP. And I had to tell this person, you're a politician, so in your campaigns, maybe you can do something like this. I'm not a politician. I'm a person, a human, a Hindu, a mother, all these things that I am. I can't do that. I can't stand up and talk about what's happening in India and not talk about what's happening to Muslims and Dalits. It's not possible. So, in the Gita, it says, do your own dharma imperfectly rather than somebody else's dharma perfectly. So humbly, and in terms of apathy, it's heartbreaking, and I don't know what to do about it except what I'm doing. And so hopefully, COVID, as atrocious as the second wave of COVID has been in India, I have seen a shift. I've seen people sort of wake up to, oh my God, my own, I'm Hindu, I'm in India, and my own people are dying. These people messed up. But there I'm worried that people who shift might shift against Modi. We have to actually awaken to the horrors of the ideology. It's not enough to replace Modi. We have to get rid of this ideology.
So Nataji, I think one of the reasons why we spoke about apathy is it's because, so on one hand, as a community, the Muslim community, not only are they persecuted and victimless, there is also a huge issue of a large number of liberals taking over the space. I'm a bit hesitant to use the word savior complex, but the point that I'm trying to make is not only is the community being the victim, but also is being asked to take its, where the pressure is also on the community on political reforms and things like that, which clearly has not worked for them in the past. So what is it that you think continue to do better in the way that things are run now?
I think I'm really clear on what we need, whether it's in America or India or probably UK too. I think we need robust, diverse coalitions. We need coalitions that have, in the Indian and Indian diaspora context, Muslims, Dalits, women's groups, left groups, Hindu groups, if they're inclusive, like Hindus for Human Rights, not if they're not inclusive. And so on and so forth. Robust coalitions that are like a microcosm of the population at large, that refuse to be divided. Because this fascist, I agree with Gopalji, ideology breeds and thrives on the divisions between us. We have to cling together and refuse to be divided. And we mustn't, and we have to make room for secular and faith-based people in these coalitions. And that's hard for both groups. the secularists and the faith-based groups. But we have to do that work to dialogue, understand that we have different perspectives, but unite on common cause. And the biggest thing is don't let them divide us. That's what I think we need. And in those coalitions, it's very important to be to have an organic way of who is front-facing and who is stepping back. So depending on the situation, a Muslim group should lead or a Hindu group should lead, depending on the audience, depending on the topic. Sometimes, for instance, in US, when under Trump, we were very worried about immigrant rights and undocumented workers issues and, a set of issues. And it was beautiful how even without much conversation, people in the protests and in the movements who were undocumented or who weren't born citizens would step back, and the people who were citizens would be in front. So depending on the situation, we should have an understanding between us about who is in the center and who is in an ally role. I think that's really important too. Those are the coalitions we need, and we each need, maybe if every one of us makes a vow that whatever we do, we will do in a coalition, we will do in partnership with somebody who is not like us. Hindu, Muslim, Hindu, Christian, Jewish, Muslim, whatever it is, secular, faith-based. If we make sure that everything we do is with someone who is not like us, we might, by brick, build the secular dream of the world that we have.
Okay.
An inclusive dream.
Yeah, I'm just going to bring Mufti Saab also in this discussion. You have a history of what I don't mean history, but you have a track record of having worked with several groups and organizations here, in your work as a civil servant and also as a faith advisor. Clearly, are there learnings that you have seen where you think collaboration could have been better across, like Sunita ji mentioned, across diverse, robust groups?
Let me just go back one thing. I think we need a range of strategies rather than just one strategy, just a range of strategies. So there are some strategies which needs to be inward focused first, and we need to start from there. And I don't know how many other scholars are on this call, but my apologies. But first thing, we need to get our own house in order. This the feel that we do, ye Musliman hai, ye Musliman nahi hai, ye Musliman. We need to get away from that. Deobandi, Brailwi, Al-Hadith. We need to get rid of that. This is planted by our big brothers who left us a long time ago, not mentioning any names. Everybody knows who I'm talking about. So they've left us this legacy that we are just, the only way, they knew that because 1857, what happened was the mutiny and the Tahrik-e-Reshmi Rumal and things like that. For those of you who are probably aware of it, it was only possible because the Muslims were, first of all, united. Secondly, when the Muslims were united, they realized that they themselves could not throw the British out. So they joined forces with the Hindus. And in the initial, I could be wrong totally, and maybe Sunita ji could correct me. But initially, when Gandhi ji came along, he wasn't very well known, but our scholars propped him up. And gave him a good platform, and obviously he was a very charismatic person, and that was a role befitting of him. So the Hindus aligned themselves. The Muslims, like you said, Muslim, you don't have to use the word Muslims because once the Hindus take lead, the Muslims already get a cushion from them. And the third thing is that which nobody's mentioned is we need to be, for those that live in the US, in UK, and Europe, we need to be asking our government, our local elected officials to start making more vigorous noises, and maybe even, I know it will hurt, and maybe not everybody likes that, is actually put South African type of sanctions against Britain, against India. That it has to be targeted properly. Also, India does a lot of work with the Gulf countries. Now we need to, out of this platform, I'm working with other organizations where we're targeting Gulf countries and saying, look, Gulf countries, wake up. This is what's happening in next door to you, which is India. Essentially, is next door. When you talk about Gujarat and you talk about Saudi Arabia and Yemen, it's just across the river, if you might want to say. So if we have some targeted sanctions that way, so there is a range of strategies we need to apply. One is good for one person, somebody might not fit in there, so you need to apply other. We have George Galloway here. He's standing up for spend on battling elections here. One of the things we're very clear with him, we've had meetings. He said, "What are you going to do about Palestine? What are you going to do about India?" And we put him on the spot. So these are the things that we can do. So there's a range of strategies that we need to apply, not just one. I'm sure there are more, but I think we probably need to have another session with Gopalji and just talking about strategy only.
As a filmmaker, and who's done several award-winning work on several issues, especially around the UA, and also Tasneem's also on the call. Can you please share with us one thing that completely moved you, that you thought, this is nothing like that ever that I have seen? Do you have an experience like that?
Yeah, it's kind of very difficult experience to share, because as somebody who has grown up in Kerala, my first, my film was on, kind of destruction of ecology, and all that, cutting of forests and everything. But my second professional documentary was on Kashmir, which is also because why I am in travel today. That is about, kind of, enforced disappearance in Kashmir. You all know about Parvina Hamid, who last year, was, was named as one of the, kind of prominent figures, one of the 100, in BBC ratings and all that. What I said in Kashmir changed my mind. That was because even today when I talk, even I don't know how much Sunidaji will appreciate me. I learned that it was occupation, and wherein I said, always said, why I am also in trouble. Where I said in 2017 in a public meeting that end occupation, free Kashmir, but with a point. I said, we have to look at, the pluralism, diversity, syncretic culture, and constitutional values. Based on that, end occupation free Kashmir, because Kashmir is a hotbed, for the fascists. And I know, for tomorrow, if I say Kashmir, needs to be made independent, fascists will do it very they will do it right from Deen Dayal Upadhyaya. But what will happen? Every village in India, Muslims will be slaughtered based on religion. That will be the second partition. That is where people like Sunijaji's ideologies are strategic and tactical. And then I made this film on Gujarat genocide in 2000. Now, according to UN convention, we can always say that it's not a genocide, but one, hundreds of people were killed, women were raped, hundreds of crores of property was destroyed, women places of worship was destroyed, women and children were made target of attack. Four ways it's genocide. Fifth way, it is not genocide because there is not a drastic reduction in population. So that is where see this goes. I know that's how I know Raju Rajagopalji. These are all subtle areas, but the way I think, I want to go to just one more minute before I leave. I see what's happening now. See, we are keeping on reacting to issues. Okay, even in COVID times. Before that, there was Love Jihad campaign. That was 2013. Then there was Muzaffarnagar riots. My first film on Muzaffarnagar riots is my film. Then there was abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. There was CA protest. There was the farmer protest wherein Disha Ravi was targeted. There's Lakshadweep. I want to talk about Lakshadweep actually.
What we're going to do now is we're actually going to end today's session. I know we started with a prayer, and if I may, thank you, Palji, Smitaji, for your time. Tasneem, if you're listening, well done to you and to your team for a very moving telling of what has happened, and very surprising ray of hope through the eyes of the mother. I'm going to ask Mufti Saab to end today's session with a short, quick prayer for all of us, and of course for the souls of those the victims of Islamophobia and fascism in India.
Oh God, we ask you to show mercy on India and make India superpower again, and let the colors of the rainbow, let 1,000 flowers bloom as it was in the day in the heydays when India was actually a superpower and everybody looked upon India. Because when I read in some places, when some people came to India from Britain, they saw not a single person that was starving in India. This is the sort of economy we ask God to make India powerful again, and we ask that you show special mercy on the mother of Junaid and give her patience in this world. And we ask God to make Junaid's grave a garden of paradise. And under his the example that our sister Tasneem and other sisters have shown in making this film, we ask God to give them give them more encouragement to do more and more of these things. And we ask God to take away the fear that the Muslims might have in their hearts, because fear is the worst enemy. And we ask the like-minded people, whether they are Muslim, whether they're Hindu, whether they are Dalits, whether they are Christian, to unite them in this just cause.
Thank you so very much, Mufti Saab, for that. Thank you, Sunita ji, for joining us today. Thank you, Gopal ji, for being with us.
Thank you so
and
much.
well done, and thank you, Tasneem, for and of course your
Thank you,
entire
sir.
team.
Thank
For
you
your
very
team,
much.
and giving us the opportunity to platform, and to the guys from Maktub Media. And therefore, thank you all. Thank you, and thank you for all who have joined us today. We hope that we can continue to connect in the future with more events, with more speakers, with more authors, and with more octaves. Thank you, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.